Zoom. Welcome to the Sleep Drunk episode. Pull up a chair or a bed. And why am I doing a Sleep Drunk episode? I tend to be most honest when I'm exhausted. That's a real yawn. If this is your first time seeing me, I have 44 siblings. Yes, actually.
I'm sorry. You have how many siblings?
I have 44 siblings.
You have 44 first siblings.
My name's Anthony Padilla, and today I'll be spending a day with Calvin, an ex-cult member.
We had somebody on the show who has 44 siblings and 4 moms because he grew up in a polygamist compound.
Welcome back. As a fundamentalist Mormon, having 5 parents and 44 brothers and sisters was the norm for Calvin Wayman. 44 siblings. That's 40 plus 4.
4 moms.
Each of my moms had 11 to 13 kids each.
Bro. What? Okay, where do you fall?
I am the 11th child, born in the 11th month. Sentence you've never heard. I'm the 11th child, and I'm one of the older kids.
I've never heard that sentence. That's fabulous.
And we all grew up in one house.
No, you did not. No, how big is the house?
Should have been bigger. But I'm Calvin, also known as the Cultured Boy. It has been quite the journey to get to this point. This is my show. I'm Cultured Boy, also known as Calvin Wayman, and I have 44 siblings. Yes. Pull up a chair or a bed. I usually don't do this podcast in bed, but for this episode, I have to kind of fit the bit, and because I'm doing a sleep drunk episode. And why am I doing a sleep drunk episode? I tend to be most honest when I'm exhausted. So it's at the end of the day, and this is a mile marking episode. It's episode 30. And I'm going to talk about several things today. There's actually 3 core things I want to talk about. Number 1, I'm going to talk about more personal stuff. If this is your first time seeing me, again, I'll talk about who I am growing up in 44 siblings. But I'm also going to talk deeper about things I've never shared, things that people haven't heard from me on any other episode that I've done on Cultured Boy or any other interviews, particularly around relationships and dating. That's something that my friends ask about and people that I meet in person ask about, but I've not talked about it on my own show. And I want to. So I'll talk about some relationship and dating stuff. I'm going to talk about, now that we're at this mile marking episode of Cultured Boy, sort of what's been the evolution of doing this show and where I see it going. There's some things I'm super excited to tell you guys in the Cultured crew, the Cultured community. And then I'll also just talk about some of the things on my mind in culture right now, sort of as like a timestamp in culture as well, because, whether this episode is being watched right now in, approaching November 2025, or if it's in 2035 or something like that. I just want the cultural moment to be captured. Okay. Well, if this is your first time seeing me, hi, I'm Calvin. I do have 44 siblings, so you might be like, what? What does that mean? That boggles brains. And I didn't realize how many brains it boggled until over a long time, because that was just my normal for a long time. So I grew up Fundamentalist Mormon in Utah. I live here in New York City now. I started my whole life over. I'll give some of the context. So for most of my life, lived in this fundamentalist Mormon church, and every aspect of my life was decided for me. From what to do in the day-to-day, what the appropriate activities were, what to dress like, the direction to go in terms of career, even down to relationships and who to marry. I had a church assigned marriage and stuff like that. And I'm going to take these off since I'm getting ready for bed. That's a real yawn. Yeah, so it's been a wild ride. It really has. This whole journey of life to recognizing that what I'm in and starting my life over, and it now being a few years into this new life, it has been a wild fucking ride. And I want to react to it in some sense. In fact, this is what I'm going to do for a lot of this episode. If you're engaging, please do. I want to hear from you in the comments. I'm going to engage with everybody that chats here in this episode. Feel free to comment what your thoughts are, what your questions are, and I'll do it after. And please please subscribe. Really, this is my dream. This is what I want to do. But that said, I think what the approach I'm going to take for the rest of this conversation is really try to just have a deeply honest conversation with myself about what this has been like for me. Because I really think, as a viewer anyway, that's what's going to give the deepest insights as to what it's like to grow up in something incredibly controlling. You know, some people don't like using this word, the cult word. I think it fits. And so that's why I'll keep using it, and that's why I'll use the show name Cultured Boy and stuff like that. But here's a reaction I want to say to myself that I want to just document for whether it's in 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and stuff like that is, and this might seem obvious to most people, but it wasn't obvious to me at the time, and so I want to say it, and that is my gut was right. My gut was right. That is such a big thing for me to be able to say, because when you're in something and you're considering doing something that is potentially life-altering, it feels reckless. You question everything. You sort of, I'm very introspective. I've been journaling almost every single day since I was 17. I write a lot. And I think one of the reasons I do is because of how big of a deal it was to decide if I'm going to either stay in the religion or leave it. Because I had to check myself in every way imaginable. Logically, spiritually, emotionally. Check every single motive. Am I doing this for what I've been told my whole life I'm doing it for? Like, if somebody ever leaves, it's because they're giving into the lust of their flesh, that the devil is influencing them. Is it true honesty? Is it following my gut and stuff like that? And I think that's what I want to highlight here is I have this audio note, and I'm probably going to do an episode of Cultured Boy at some point in the future, just completely revolving around this moment. Because I just passed it, actually. What is this, 8 years? Yeah. Just past 8 years since I made the decision. But I have this audio note of the moment I decided. And I go through some of the reasoning, and it's a hard thing for me to finally come out and say it. But one of the words I say, one of the phrases I use is, it just doesn't feel right when it comes to staying. Like staying and imagining myself down the road, it just doesn't feel right. It was ultimately a gut decision. And why is that such a big deal for me? Because what I now know, and it just makes me so grateful, man. It makes me so grateful. I don't know why I am wired the way that I'm wired, and I think I give credit to just being a human being. It honestly, when I reflect on my past story and like what I've done and where I've gone and where I was born in and what I've left, what it really does is it makes me so fucking proud that I'm part of the human race. I don't think this isn't to take anything from my journey. I don't think that it's just me. That's not to take away from what I did and how hard it was. And it's not to say that I'm not special or unique, because I believe that I am. And I also believe that everybody has something that makes them special or unique if you go deep enough. But what it also does is it really just makes me realize this is insane. I've played with the odds of how likely it is for somebody that's born in a very high controlled environment like mine, with all the different factors, like every single relationship that I knew was in this community, was in this religion. Everybody revered my grandfather, who was one of the patriarchs of the entire structure. I was homeschooled, lived in a fenced yard, did not associate with people in the outside world. And year after year after year after year, nearly 30 years of conditioning, to then have curiosity be the guide, to start poking holes in the thing that is this is the thing I've learned too, like one of the hardest things that a human being can do, and you can just see this just by asking anybody questions, but one of the hardest things you can do is question your own worldview. But it can be done. Like, people do it all the time, and they learn from it. I love this quote from, what's his name? Mark Twain, I think it is. He's like, I remember hearing it when I was questioning, and it just popped in my head. I'll paraphrase it. It's something like, it's not what we know that gets into trouble. It's not what we know that gets us into trouble. It's what we know for sure that just ain't so. And again, it's so rare to have. It's just really bananas to me that when I zoom out of the absurdity of life and of existence, that it's absurd for all of us, really, that we're here, that we're alive, that we're on this floating ball hurling through space. But I'm just really grateful that I somehow was wired in the way that I am to question even my own worldview enough to finally build the crack and to get out, because it wasn't obvious then. And the more that I'm out, the more I'm like, holy shit, even with all that conditioning, that earlier version of me, his gut was right. And I'm so grateful to that. It makes me want to honor that part of myself by trusting myself more, by doing the things that may not make sense on paper. And in a way I am. I'm doing it right now with Cultured Boy, this show. I was going to do some of the personal stuff like dating things first, but I'll come to that in a second. Now that I'm talking about the show Cultured Boy. What I'm doing right now is not logical on paper, but I'm following the same spirit or essence or soul that got me out of the cult. And that is, I'm making decisions to do something not because it makes logical sense as the right thing to do, but that it feels real. So when I left the religion, I mean, let's be honest. The religion is set up for dudes. The one that I was in. I probably would have 3 wives right now. I was going to get to have this ascending structure where over time I could probably get more status, have more kids, again, more wives, with this understanding that I was going to ultimately have this sense of having kingdom in this structure that also meant I was going to be potentially a god someday. In fundamentalist Mormonism, you don't just go back to heaven, you get to create the heaven. You get to be a god yourself. And I just totally lost my train of thought. So, and I'm going to keep this in. Because that's one of the reasons I wanted to do a sleep drunk episode, is to just capture some of the real and raw. But I think it had something to do with the essence. So the essence was, the keeping it real. Like, so why would I leave it even though it didn't make sense on paper? Because in my deepest essence, it was like, no, there's more than this. This just doesn't feel right. It didn't match the real lived experience of what I had as I was going out and exploring the world a little bit. And as I was meeting other people that were amazing people. And we were supposed to have the one true church. And we were supposed to be the reason that all of the goodness was going on for us, was because we had the thing. And so it didn't make sense on paper to leave. But I did. And it was hard as fuck. It was so hard. In every way. And anybody that's left anything hard, whether it was telling a boss to go fuck himself or even a toxic relationship, changing environments, changing everything is not easy. And at the beginning it wasn't obvious, and I'm just, I just keep lingering on it because of how impossible it felt. I hope that's what gets communicated. But when it comes to Cultured Boy, the show, again, just to sort of timestamp where I'm at in the journey right now, is it's approaching my birthday. My birthday's on November 1st, which is also a fun little thing, because I grew up hating numbers and people that would talk about numbers things, and now I'm starting to notice them, which is annoying. But I'm sort of leaning into it too. But I'm the 11th child, born in the 11th month, and I was born on the 1st. I happen to live here near 1 and 1 in New York City. But as I'm approaching my birthday, near the end of the year, I've made almost no income this entire year. When I moved here to New York City, like making it to this apartment that I'm in, I have an episode of it. Episode 10 is a really cool episode talking about the story of how I got here. And in a way, I'm sort of, it feels like a gamble. I'm gambling this thing that I love, this apartment, to go for what I want. But I also believe in it. So I was doing client work, which basically just meant a whole bunch of Zoom calls every day, and I wasn't loving it. And I quit my job at the first week of January, and I booked flights to the Middle East to go make a film on the Israel-Palestine divide, and that film is done. It took me like 3 months, and it's pinned to my YouTube channel called Hearts Unknown. But again, I just want to capture this moment that I'm in for now, but also, and for anybody watching it, but also for myself in the future when I reflect back on this, because there are moments and there are days, like I have like a freak out, a 24-hour freak out every 2 weeks or so, but then I am able to come back to it. And I think the only reason I'm even able to do something that doesn't make sense on paper is because of what I've gone through with leaving the religion. But I also want to have this reminder of why I'm doing it, because it feels real. It feels the most real. That's sort of been the through line with so much of my past journey, with my life the last few years. And this is another thing I'm starting to think differently on, is like, I was like leaving the religion and, leaving Utah. That's only half of the story. It's also what I'm stepping into. And what I'm stepping into is what is more real. When I was leaving the religion, yes, it was because I realized I only had one life, and I wanted to live a life that was based on my own value set and living from the inside out instead of outside in. But the other thing is, it's just what felt the most real to me. It felt like this feels made up, especially when I go and listen and talk to other people. And the same thing is what's going on right now with Cultured Boy, and how I was able to make the decision in January to quit my client work and basically shut off all of my income to go all in on storytelling, creating, and doing what matters to me, because it's what feels most real to me. I've just been living off of fucking credit cards. And it's still very unknown where this ends up and how things evolve and what happens. I mean, I have a fucking IRS bill that came that I was not expecting. That's like $3,700 that says overdue and due by the 27th of this month. Money I don't have. I don't have any money. So I got to call them and be like, what's going on? But the other thing too that I want to capture and document to myself is, even though I do have the freakouts, and one of the things that anchors me is the realness to it. It's also, I feel myself changing. I feel myself evolving. I feel myself trusting myself in a way that I haven't, and in a way that I've always wanted to. And I'll tie that to the relationship stuff in a second. And that has been such a cool thing, because there have been times in my past, like I have shortly after leaving the religion, I did a TEDx talk on money and getting out of debt and stuff like that. And I've had so much anxiety around money and getting the money piece right so that I could live authentically. My sort of attitude has been like, if I get this part done, like if I get the money figured out, then I can do all the things that I want. But I think what really switched it for me is last year my dad died. And I haven't done an episode yet on my dad, and I will at some point. I'm not quite ready yet to fully go there. But one of the last meaningful interactions that I had with my dad, he was still he was still talking about money and worried about money. Like a couple weeks away from his passing. During a time where it should have just been with, like, at least you would hope that it's just only with your kids and your grandkids and the people that you love. And there was something in that to me that was like, I don't want that to be me. And so that brings up the questions, well, how do you make sure it's not? And one thought track is, well, just focus on money, make a lot of money so you don't have to worry about it anymore. That's one. I feel like I sort of did that with this whole entrepreneurial journey that led me out of the religion. I was so focused on being an entrepreneur and making it. And I made some money, but that didn't quite do it either. And instead, the bet I'm making right now, and I'm sort of excited that because I'm either going to crash and burn or I'm going to break through it, but I'm glad that I'm documenting it right now before my birthday in 2025. The bet that I've made all year, and the bet that I'm still in, is if I stay true to what actually matters to me, that feels real to me, that I genuinely give a fuck about. It matters. I want to create it. I want to see it real. I want to put it out into the world. It will start to build. It will compound on itself. It will stack. It will compound on itself. It's just a matter of time for it to work. And when it does, it really does. It really does. Because the reward for success, it's been said, is that the world wants you to do more of it. Whatever the thing was that you were successful at. And I want to be successful being me. I want to be successful going for expressing what is real for me, what is true for me, sharing perspectives, getting to the heart of an issue, but being so radically raw and honest as fucking you dare to be. Like, that's what I care about. Truth, reality. And that's the game I'm playing. It's something I've had to tell myself as the money dried up, because it dried up fast living in America's most expensive city. And again, people's like, why haven't you moved? Because I fucking want to live here. Like, that's most real to me. People are like, why don't you get a cheaper place? Because I don't want to. I don't. I like it here. Like, it's that fucking simple. It's like, it doesn't make logical sense, like living in the most expensive city in the world and stuff like that. But why are you doing it? Because I like it here. I like me here. I fucking love it here. I've talked about it a little bit on episodes, but I cannot. I'm going to have to do some sort of like show, movie, book, something what New York City has done for this fundamentalist boy that thought he was broken. That was told by those closest to him that he trusted that he was wrong and broken and going down a very wrong, scary path, but trusting anyway and being in finding my center again, finding who I am and reconnecting to that part of me, reconnecting to that possibility that feels inevitable by staying connected to the center of who you are, the core, the soul, is so fucking gratifying. It's what's made all of the pain worth it. And I know I'm just getting started. New York City has been... It's been my safe place to be myself. It's where I've learned to relax. And I understand that's not what people often hear about New York City. But this is the direction I want to go. I want to just keep going deeper into it. I want to be as honest as I dare myself to be. It's easier said than done. Because honesty with myself literally upturned my entire life. Being honest with what I really think and feel. Being honest with, oh, I don't believe this. Being honest with, I think I would rather live this life, the one I'm in now, versus continuing the path of every single person that I knew. And perhaps this is a good transition to get into where I see Cultured Boy, this show, going. The thing I've learned that I just fucking love, especially in the age of the internet and AI, where people wonder what is real, what is true. I value the human experience so much. I love it. I love every aspect of the human experience. I love having dissected myself and having met and connected with such a wide range of humans. I am just so deeply fascinated at the human condition. And my favorite episodes that I've done so far is where we've gotten to the real human shit. And so I want to lean into that. In fact, it's what I'm so proud of Hearts Unknown. Like, I want, again, just dropping this here because there's nothing necessarily in the works for what I'm about to say, but I want to document some of the big, crazy, lofty moonshot goals that I have that would be so cool to do. But one of those is I would love to take Hearts Unknown and make that a standalone project from Cultured Boy that is creating a show just like Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown, but more personal. In fact, that's the name is inspired by Anthony Bourdain. I really feel like Anthony Bourdain is a voice that the world is missing right now, because he brought so many different, diverse perspectives into our living room, and it would be so dope if I could do a show, probably specifically around the Middle East right now, because that's the thing that captures my attention with this sort of thing, is really getting to the heart of what people are and what really matters to them. It'd just be really cool to do a show like that. Either something that I'm producing, I can afford to produce, or even if Anthony Bourdain's people got connected and saw my first episode of Hearts Unknown and was like, okay, this guy can actually do it. He did it. Look, I mean, I produced the entire thing and shot it all, was my own camera crew, my own editor. And what drove me? It was real. It mattered to me. Even if it didn't make sense on paper, it mattered to me. And I want that same sort of heart in Cultured Boy. So right now, Cultured Boy is conversation, and that's probably still gonna be the forefront. But some of the principles that I learned during the Hearts Unknown project, I want to start spilling over into Cultured Boy too. Maybe even Anthony Bourdainian kind of things where the conversation is on site, not just in studio. And why? Because I want to get closer to the human experience, because I have seen it. I've gone through it myself. I've also had such intense, deep conversations with literally people of all kinds, from nuns that have been nuns for decades to an ex-felon that had been in prison for decades, sex workers to devout Christians, people that lived in the projects their whole life, people that have traveled the world, like going to different countries, comparing and contrasting each other's lived experience. Like, I've had so many of these conversations one-on-one, and there is such a inevitable, obvious through line with every human being I've ever interacted. First of all, the one thing that's an obvious through line is every single human being I've ever met is fucking interesting. And that might sound like an obvious thing for some, but others it might not. It was for me, because in my upbringing, our church was the nuance. Everybody else we had figured out already. They were in neat boxes. Black people are this. Asians are this. Christians are this. Atheists are this. Sex workers are this. Republicans are this. Democrats are this. Israelis are this. Jews are this. Muslims are this. All of those things were in neat, perfect boxes. But I've learned something. Okay, I'm not supposed to get too excited right now because it's past my bedtime. But it is exciting to me. And the exciting thing is I have never had a conversation with anybody for just 15 minutes. If I've had a conversation with somebody for at least 15 minutes, I have found something about them that is infinitely interesting and infinitely unique about them. And that makes so much sense. Like, once I realized it, because again, I have 44 fucking siblings. We lived in one house. And they were all different. We were all different. And that's coming from the same DNA, roughly speaking. In a controlled environment, in a controlled religion, say, look this way, dress this way, do these things. Like, we were given the marching orders. And we were all still very different. Every single one of my siblings is a unique freaking thing. Like, I that's another thing I want to do. Like, at some point, I want to bring other siblings on the show. It'd be fun to have some conversations of, like, different siblings. By the way, people say, "Do you know all your siblings?" Of course, we all grew up in the same house. I could say all their names right now. I want to do some conversations with, again, maybe a small group of us. But what I also want to do, at some point, at least the ones that are open to do it, because I know some would, but perhaps even, I mean, best case scenario is like ultimately through a lot of time and a lot of trust, they would do this. But I would love to do an episode with literally every single sibling. Like, feature them more than a conversation. Like, show who they are. And that sort of speaks to where the direction I want Cultured Boy to take is I want Cultured Boy to get to the real and the raw truth of humanity. Like, find the universal in the specificity. Find the universal through the personal. Because we all have it. And the most of the problems I see right now are, yes, story clashes, narrative clashes, religious clashes, but people don't see each other. Not really. We think we do. But what we really do is we see the box that we put them in. We created the box. The box was already bad. And then we put the person in the box and we start throwing darts. We don't see him as us. And I think it's fucking with us. And I don't think it's good for... It's definitely not good for them, but I don't think it's good for us. Like, I think we're all missing out if we operate that way. And again, when I say us, I just mean culture. I don't mean... I mean, the thing I love about my audience, the community that watches Cultured Boy, is... It's quite diverse and open-minded. I just love the people that comment. It's not black and white thinking, and the world needs more of that. The more nuance. Yeah, so I think that's what I'll say there is I have some episodes that I'm working on right now that are going to be more personal. Like, I have an episode coming up with a female comedian where I'm going to not just have her in studio, we'll get some conversation in studio, but I want to know what it's like to be on the process of making it as a female comedian in New York City. So actually be with her in her apartment getting ready for a show that she produces, or being backstage or watching her perform, seeing the material, but seeing the self-doubt, the insecurity of what it means. I'm going to be doing an episode at some point, hopefully by the end of the year, with, again, an ex-convict, somebody that was in prison for 20 plus years and now plays chess at Washington Square Park here in New York City. Like, and just getting to these deep conversations, these human conversations. Like, I've been so freaking lucky to bump into such a diverse group of really cool people, and many of them are so open and generous and willing to speak. And I think it'd be fun to bring that to this show and actually just show how many kinds of humans there are, but also how there's universality in that. And hopefully bring us a little bit closer. Okay. Yeah, just trying to think where I want to take this, because I still want to wrap with some stuff with what's going on in actual culture right now, especially with Israel, Palestine, Gaza, the whole Trump peace plan, just so I have that. But I was also going to share some stuff on dating and relationships and things like that. Except it's totally not the energy. I was thinking that my dating and relationship stuff was going to be when I'm in such a light mood, and this feels, it's not that it's like heavy, but it's again, it has some depth to it. But I'm going to trust it. I'm going to lean into this. I want to talk about sex and dating and relationship stuff more on my show, just because, again, it was so controlled in my upbringing and so tabooed. Sexual exploration is shamed. There was, again, no dating, and I had an arranged marriage in the religion, and one of the fundamental breaking points when I was leaving the religion with my ex at the time was around this. One of our fundamental differences is what is correct and appropriate. And when you're in this sort of thing, everything becomes, this is the right way. Like literally we were taught there's a correct principle in all things. Which sort of implies there's a right way to do things. And I now believe the literal opposite, where yes, there are principles that I operate in my life with, like authenticity and integrity and kindness and freedom, like some of these things that are value-based things that are relatively stable in my life now. But I've also learned that there are so many ways to express authenticity. There's so many ways to have relationship and stuff like that. And so because it was so controlling, again, I have a lot of views on it. And I think, again, I don't think I'm going to get into all the views. I just want to see if I can challenge myself to share a little bit of what my dating journey has been since leaving the religion, especially since moving to New York City, and sort of answer the question where I'm at now as far as like being in relationship and stuff like that. When I moved to New York, especially, I dated a lot. I dated so much. I felt like I had to catch up all of my 20s in like a year. And so I had a lot of fun. A joke that I said to my friends once is I was like, I dated everybody. Like I feel like I dated all of New York, all these, from women who were like high-powered attorneys to, baristas or girls that didn't have stable careers, and women that, all kinds. Like I dated everyone, and sort of like, the crude joke I have is I feel like I just dumped buckets of cum all over Manhattan. So if you ever walked on the sidewalk and like your foot stepped into something sticky, that was probably my fault. But no, I'm kind of joking, but kind of not, because I just dated and experienced, and New York City is probably the best place in the world to date if you were a fundamentalist Mormon kid and you couldn't date, because then there was a couple things that I had going for me. Number one, a large pool of amazing women of all kinds, and they're pretty open-minded. They're pretty freaking direct. New York City's freaking honest of like, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm not looking for. I'm looking for a relationship. I'm looking just to hook up. Like all of that. Any sort of type of experience you could have, I had that. But also, I had the built-in like story. Like I could just say like where I was from and stuff like that, and people connected on that. So I did that, but I feel like I got things out of my system. But I learned so much about myself too. I learned how normal it was to be sexual, and how everybody is sexual, or at least wants to be. And that seems so freaking basic. But I started to learn how not only my culture views sexuality, but just how society and culture does. And for some reason, even though literally everybody either fucks or wants to fuck, literally we all got here by people fucking. Literally. It's an uncomfortable conversation, and I want to normalize it somehow. Probably just by starting to talk about it. And because I remember first, like all of my dates felt like a secret. Like I can't tell people that I'm dating and that I'm hooking up. And it's like, what the fuck? Why not? And then it started to be more normal as I started to, talk to friends about it and know that they're dating and that they're seeing different people and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, like we're all figuring our stuff out. This is great. But my dating life has also gone through a bit of an evolution. And I think that's what I want to highlight is the evolution, because I went from, well, I think we have this tendency as humans is we sort of go through a process, and once we come to a thing that's good, we sort of demonize the earlier parts of the process. And I don't think that's the right posture that we want to take, because it was the earlier parts of the process that got us to that understanding. It's sort of like, I mean, even with me, like, I freaking love New York City, but I've learned that one of the reasons I do is because of how I was raised. And I ultimately don't want to demonize the fact that I grew up in fundamentalist Mormonism. I think it's cool. Like, that my story is so unique, and that I have 44 siblings, and that it gave me contrasting perspectives on life that I carry with me everywhere I go, that I know not everybody gets to have. I like that. And people have that in relationship stuff too. Like, they finally meet the one, and then they think about all their exes and stuff like that, and they're very disrespectful to all their exes. And I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that guy. Even though I've done a lot of short-term dating, I've also had a couple long-term relationships beyond just my arranged marriage. And I've learned so much on those long-term relationships, on how to communicate, on myself. I've learned, I was actually just interviewed in Central Park on a dating show. I don't know if it's been out yet, but they wanted me to share an idea from dating. And the answer that I gave, and I'll just give it here since it's on my mind, is my dating answer was, one of my favorite lessons from dating was, it's never about the dishes. It's never about the dishes. And I learned that from a long-term living girlfriend right after I left the religion. And what I mean by that is, if there's like a reaction over something seemingly small on the surface, it's never about that surface thing. And people get caught up in arguing about the dishes, but it's so much more meaningful when you get to the core and figure out what it actually is for both sides. Part of my journey with dating has been so many things. First of all, getting to the place where I could date and have sex, and really the first major thing I wanted to know was even if I just could. Like, I remember, like, that's what I wanted to know. Is like, could I actually even, do I have the riz to take somebody out on a date, have conversation, be attracted to this woman, and her be attracted to me and want to hook up with me? Like, I didn't know at some, like, because I went through all of high school years and college years without doing it. And so I did it, and at first it's like, okay, was that a fluke? And so you do it a few times, and you're like, okay, yeah, I've got that part down. And then there was the part of just working through so much of the shame around it. Like, I'm doing this, but is this bad? Because so much of my religion, but even society says that this is bad. And so I had to work through just accepting the sexual being that I and all of us are. Like, it just seems so obvious now, but it wasn't. Like, I thought that I even called myself, like, I have a sex addiction or a masturbation addiction. And I've learned over time, again, thank God for therapy and like doing a lot of deep internal work. I'm a human. And so many things that I called an addiction wasn't an addiction at all when it came to like sexuality. What it really was me trying to stuff down a part of me that is so natural and so normal. And when you try to control something like that, there was this other part of me that was sort of being compulsory with saying, oh, I need to have this because I'm not going to have it forever and it's wrong or something like that. But as soon as I relaxed myself, I was like, no, this is normal. I can either have this or not, or have it with this person or not, but I'm a sexual person and I'm going to do it. Several things happened. Number one, I became more creative. Like, especially during like doing major creative projects like Hearts Unknown. Like when I just accepted that it's normal to be attracted to other human beings and to want to have sex and to have connection with people. And I just said, you know what, I'm accepting this in me. Several things happened. I felt better about myself. The shame melted. But the other thing that changed too is I sort of like evened out with the kinds of dates and how frequently I was dating and how often I was masturbating. And like, it just wasn't as compulsory. It was just, it was almost like a diet. This is a good analogy. It was almost like if you tell yourself you're going on a diet and you can't have that pizza, you look at it, but you can't have it. It sort of makes you want to just eat the pizza. But just saying, you know, you have to approach that in a different way. Like, this is normal. I can eat the pizza or not, but it's like, well, what are your goals? And this is where I want to shift to. So I've had to set all this up because of what I'm doing now, and because I'm doing it from a completely different energy than I've done it before. First of all, am I in a relationship? I'm in two. I'm in two long-term relationships. Number one, I'm in a long-term committed relationship with New York City. That's number one. And then number two, and this is really the top relationship I'm in a long-term committed relationship with myself. Okay, what do I mean? Yeah, so this is something that I have done deliberately, and it's been so fucking good for me. It's been so good. I've also taken deliberate time out from just going for the dating apps and swiping and stuff like that, and literally just saying, you know what, part of this journey too is being so good with myself. And that's why I wanted to share everything, because it's not like the other things were worse. They weren't. I learned so much about myself with all the different dating experiences I've been on. And it's sort of like now at this place where I'm settling in and learning to trust myself, learning to be okay with myself no matter what. And also start to ask myself, well, what type of relationship or relationships, if I, do I want to have some sort of a, like, there's so many different types. Do I want an open marriage? Do I want a poly situation? Do I want monogamy and stuff like that? And, I think I will share a little something here, because coming where I come from, it seemed like it was going to be so normal and natural for me to say that I want to have like poly or something like that, because I grew up around polygamy. I don't think I do. Again, the through line in this whole thing is what is real. And this is bananas to me, because at one point I'm like, well, what's real is I want to have variety. I want to be able to sleep with different women and stuff like that. And if I'm being honest, there is still like this part of me that I'm like, okay, there's a final chapter that I know I feel I really need. Not a final chapter like my life is gone, but like there is like this deeper journey that I want to go in where I'm like there's a variety of sexual experiences that I have yet to have. I want to say that, that I want to have, that it's like, this feels exciting to me. I want to experience this. But where I see this going, and it's sort of surprising to me from where I've come from, is I think I'm craving a monogamous relationship ultimately. And that's, again, surprising, and I'm so excited for it. And this is this has been one of the things that has been so good with me having alone time, because it's been space for me to get clear with what would that look like. Because just because it's monogamous, number one, doesn't mean variety isn't there. Because I realized it with myself. I was like, well, I'm one person. I'm certainly not just, mono. I'm not just one way. There's like such a layered version. Like, I'm so many things. And there's so many layers to myself that I've learned through my creative work and through scaring the shit out of myself and following the calling of my soul to chase my truth and my dreams, live where I want to live, do what I want to do, even completely separate from other people. So I know that I have that I have those layers and that depth. And so I'm like, at first I used to think that, well, you want to have, variety with different people and stuff like that. But I've realized, but that same variety you can have with a individual person, I think, because I have it. And so I just imagine what that could be like in a monogamous relationship, to like have that true depth, just that soul exploration. But again, it's also, and I'm not attached through it either. Like how this evolves. Like I could through my life learning of myself. Like this could totally switch, and I'm happy with it switching. Like where maybe I want to do something, I don't know, poly or like see what that feels like and stuff like that. But no, but that's where I'm at right now. I think that's what's the most real. So I want to document it to myself here on episode 30. But what it's also been fun for me to do, and I think this is what I want to document, is the kind of relationship that I'd want it to be. I know what it feels like. I know what it'll feel like. To have an ideal relationship that matches, what it will feel like is energy. It will feel expansive. It will feel that I value what is real, right? It'll feel like both of us. It'll feel like I get to be more real and she gets to be more real. And when I look at the kinds of women that I notice that I'm really into, because I value realness so much, it tends to be, sometimes it's these like very healing kind of women, like in spirituality and stuff, but it's also probably the truest are artists. Artists that have genuine skin in the game because they're sharing and bearing their fucking soul to the world. That's who really attracts me. Because at the end of the fucking day, man, in this one life that I have, that's what I want to do. That's what I'm trying to do. It's why I'm even doing this very sleep drunk episode. It's like I'm trying to challenge myself to lean into this honesty piece. Because that's what I want. I want to live in that honesty and say exactly how I really feel and say what I'm actually really seeing. Yeah, and so I'm just curious because the other thing too is I'm in no rush. I'm in no rush with any of this relationship stuff. Because it's taken a long time. Like I knew for a long time that I wanted to have this alone time with myself, and having, again, had a couple micro long-term relationships and then a lot of dating and then now this solo time, I'm really getting to this place where I just love it. I really love, Like I feel like that I'm learning about how to partner with me, like how to negotiate with me, how to trust me in so many different ways. Like it's really hard to convey how much it feels like my life has shifted. Especially since leaving the religion, especially since moving to New York 3 years ago, but also this year just saying, you know what, we're not going to do work we don't enjoy. We're going to do stuff that matters. And again, it's still such a gamble. At least it feels like a gamble because there is no guarantees except that I'm like, if I just keep on doing this, if I keep on staying sincere, it has to work. And it is working on some level because it's making some money, even if it's like $40 a month or $100 a month on AdSense on YouTube. That's more than it was. And so I'm just planting seeds and trusting it. Let me see. There was something I wanted to, I think, wrap up with this relationship piece. Yeah, I think probably just touching on what it feels like. I think it probably connects to, I think what I was going to say is how it connects to other things in my life where I've noticed in my journey since leaving the religion how much magic there is in the world, especially when there is no force. Literally the very best thing, which is so funny because I don't think that was obvious either when I was leaving. Like, yes, the religion had force, but I didn't realize how much good there is by just leaning into what feels authentic and true and not forcing yourself and not forcing anything. Like, there's so much magic. I literally call it magic. I first called it New York City magic, but I think it's just life magic. When you're in truth and you're living authentically, you're just going with your flow and you're not forcing anything. Cool shit is going on all the time. And that's how I want to approach relationships, especially at the very beginning. I'm not grasping for anything. Like, there are artists in my head that I'm not going to say here that I'm like, oh, I love her. I really love her. Like, what it seems like that she is. Like, when I see her in interviews or I see her performing, I'm like, yeah, my soul fucks with that. But again, I'm not attached to it, to particular women and stuff like that I'm attracted to. But again, one of the things that I know it would feel like, because this is sort of like a life principle too, is this idea of things are synergistic in reality. It's 1 + 1 doesn't just equal 2 when it really clicks. 1 + 1 in relationship, for it to really be the kind of relationship that I want long term, 1 + 1 equals 3 minimum, like 3, 5, or 5,000. Or something I've wrote recently on a Twitter post is like, I said 1 + 1 equals infinity. And I really think that that's possible. Like, when you have a good partnership, and this could be in many capacities, in business and creativity, certainly in love, there's like something special that the two together create something that is so much better and beyond the sum of the parts. Okay, if you guys have any questions on this stuff, I'm happy to go deeper with relationship stuff, because the other thing too is I'm also so curious and passionate about people that are already in relationships and working through relationship struggles and stuff like that. Like, I am just so curious about conflict. Some people argue and they're so close together and they don't realize it. And so I've literally helped some of my friends go through, like, I've been their conflict resolution counselor. And I love that. I want to do it more. And I do it with, like, I'm curious about it even with global conflict. And I think that's what I'll wrap with, because I want to start talking about more culture stuff too. And okay, so we just had the peace treaty. We're going to do a hard left here and then I'll land this plane. But this peace treaty, I think it surprised me big time that this peace treaty thing happened with Trump. I don't think that if I was in October of last year before the election happened and I could read a crystal ball, and I said, in a year, we're going to have a U.S. president that's going to do this peace treaty that's going to end the war in Gaza, and there's going to be 30 plus countries involved. I don't think it would have been obvious that it was Trump. I would have probably said maybe it's Kamala. She seems more peaceful at the time. But, and I understand there's a lot of people still that are very much anti-Trump. But it's also very difficult for the human brain to separate actions from the team that those actions come from. And so people are going to hate Trump no matter what. And they're going to find why it's not good no matter what. I don't think people would argue, though, that it's better for lives to be saved. And I think he did save some. But the thing I want to share besides that is I want to document to myself and to Cultured Boy and the Cultured Boy community some details that I've noticed that I don't think anybody's talking about on X or CNN. There's details that, yeah, I don't know if this is going to land. I think Israel's going to do some stupid shit. This could be a whole other episode on this. On just Israel-Palestine, because it has totally captured my attention. Because I'm so curious about relationships and people and stuff like that. But I just will leave it at that. I think Israel is going to do some really stupid shit to keep the conflict going. And there's going to be reasons why I say that. And that's, everybody knows, my close friends, I have a lot of friends that are Israeli. I'm not anti-Israel. I'm pro-human. And I'm also pro-calling it how I see it. And if I was to put any predicting thing on anything, just based on the patterns that I think I'm seeing, I think that's one of them, is that, and again, I'll go deeper in another episode probably in the future, especially if you guys are curious about why I'm saying what I'm about to say, and that is, I think Israel, this is going to sound strange to say, but will find ways to antagonize or defend something that can prolong it. But I want to leave it at that, with that, because there's other things that I wanted to share with Trump, because I learned something. I think that Netanyahu he reminds me a little bit too much like some cult leaders that I've studied. And for this to make sense, we have to peel back the layers of why we communicate anything, why human beings even talk. And we don't speak because we're just sharing facts. In fact, we couldn't. We couldn't just communicate, this is history, this is facts. Why? Because reality is too fucking complicated. There's so many details and so many facts about anything. Like, I could pull a leaf off of a tree out here in New York City, and we think it's just a leaf. But depending on what you were asking about, there's like an infinite amount of information in a fucking leaf. You could see how many atoms it has. You could see how much, what type of tree it came from, how old the tree was, what the soil is, something about the universe, what types of bugs are there. Like an infinite amount of information on a fucking leaf. And when we communicate, we're communicating for a purpose. We say words for a reason. And I say that because when I hear Netanyahu speak, it feels he's not talking about history of Israel because he, is trying to be a historian and make sure we're seeing reality clearly. It's because he's trying to accomplish a very specific aim. And I'm not so sure that the aim is one that is good for all parties involved. But why do I bring this up? Because the way Trump did the peace treaty strangely makes me, like, I can't believe I'm saying this. It makes me want to reevaluate Trump in in probably a way that gives him a little bit more credit for his negotiation abilities. Because Trump is very problematic, to say the least. But I don't think he's a dummy. I think he can read, he must be able to see if somebody's full of shit. And so, because I'm saying that Netanyahu's full of shit, I also think that there's probably other world leaders that knows that he's full of shit. But I think what I noticed Trump do is he gave him the opportunity to completely save face and make it look like he was part of the hero. And that's what I want to highlight here is that point, number one. But like, because he basically created the conditions that it could be completely accepted that Netanyahu is exactly this good faith acting human that's just trying to bring hostages home and stuff like that. And instead of just calling him out, which I think he could have had the urge to do. But the other thing too is there's 30 countries involved. 30 plus. That's a big deal. Because so many people say things like you can't negotiate with these people and stuff like that. Well, he did. And he did it without force. People willingly came to the table. And there's such a lesson in this. And I think I want to wrap up on this because we get so caught up in moralizing everything as though that we're the side, whatever side we're on, whether we're the woke left or the woke right or the religious or the non-religious. Even if we want peace in the Middle East. And that's what everybody says they want, is peace. I don't think peace is the goal. This is what I learned watching this. I think the goal is agreement. I think the goal is agreement. Finding agreement between all the parties involved, because if you find agreement, then peace comes as a byproduct. And it seems that that's what Trump did. That's why it was 20 points on the plan. It had multiple things to create agreement with several working parties. And again, there's the enforcing of it. Hamas is going to create some issues. They're not going to lay down their arms. But the fact that they actually gave the hostages up is a big deal. So as of this recording, all the hostages are free. Yeah. So why am I bringing that up? Because I think it's a very important thing for that region and probably for human relations, period, is instead of inflicting our view on any other human being, getting clear on what we want, what matters to us, and then finding agreement. Finding an agreement that together in that agreement gets us what we want better than we could have on our own. And again, I still want the Epstein files released. Like, that's super problematic that wasn't done after he ran his whole campaign on it. Of course, it's just who he is as a person, very bombastic and wild. But when I saw that happen, I'm like, he's also sort of like, especially with the thing I didn't actually explicitly say with the Netanyahu thing, I feel like he's quietly, in a strange way, my sense is, he's quietly holding accountability to world leaders to like Netanyahu in a way that I don't think that we realize. And what I think could happen, if my sense is right, is if Netanyahu doesn't play ball and goes against himself, I think we're going to see a little bit of Daddy Donald throwing his weight around a little bit with people like Netanyahu to get them to play nice. That's my sense. Okay, I really am tired. I'm glad I did this. Did you guys like this? This more open, honest conversation? If you've stayed here to the end, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Because again, the whole point is, in a world that is super polished, it's not that I don't want to create things that aren't, special, expressed, and having some sense of excellence and polish. I want to include that in some of my creations, but I just want it to be true and want it to be real. And the whole point of this is like, this was unscripted. This was just going off like what I'm really feeling as I'm here in my bed getting ready to go to sleep. And I want to do more honest stuff like this. So if you like it, please let me know in the comments below what your favorite part was. If there's anything that sparked up as far as a question, let me know that. I'm really excited for episodes coming up, especially with some of these more personal approaches I was talking about, with like more behind the scenes and getting up close to the human experience. And I'm just really grateful for anybody that does watch, because you're part of the journey, part of the early journey of the dream. And my dream is to create and be a place for real human connection and real human conversation. We're approaching 4,000 subscribers as of this recording. I want to document that, and I have something really cool and special that I want to do at 5,000 subscribers. If you're not subscribed yet, please do. And this is Calvin. I'll just say, stay hungry, stay curious. I love you. Be well. Good night. Or good day if you're listening to this in the morning.